Now what if I told you that you could do more pull-ups right now than you would be normally able to, just by switching the place and the bar you actually do them at? It sounds silly and makes no sense, but if you go and try it out right now, you're gonna see it actually works. I've actually kind of did my own anecdotal research on this for quite a while now, because I was confused the first time it actually happened, and I can safely assure you that it is not because of the bar thickness or the weather or anything else. Because I did it forth and back, and every time I switched places, after I've done them for a couple of weeks on a given bar, I actually saw an increase in like my confidence in the movement. The pull-ups felt easier, I could do more, I didn't feel as fatigued afterwards. It just overall went a lot smoother. And after using one bar for quite a while, my performance actually deteriorated and it didn't feel as nice. But then switching to another bar, instead of doing them at the gym, I did them at the park. Suddenly I felt a lot better. I could grip the bar more firmly, and overall I just felt stronger and more floaty, I guess you could say. And when my performance at the park deteriorated as well, I went back to the gym, and as you would think, they actually went up again. Now I've been kind of trying to find a scientific explanation for this phenomenon on the internet, but it seems like not really many people have actually like noticed this phenomenon themselves like I did, and I couldn't really find any explanation for why this is happening. But then I noticed the same kind of phenomenon in other exercises, the dips, even push-ups on the ground, even handstands, and pretty much every exercise got better if I switched the place I did it at, which doesn't really make any sense. But what this did is remind me of like concurrent training, if you know what that means. It basically means you do similar exercises and you kind of cycle through them, but within the same movement patterns, and that's how you structure your program, like in the gym. Or you can even do that with calisthenics, like maybe do pull-ups for a couple of weeks, then switch to chin-ups. It's the same movement pattern, but it's a different exercise. It kind of prevents overused injuries and also makes the training a bit less boring, so it's actually quite a smart way to train. And that's kind of what it reminded me, but less complex, because I would still be doing the same exercise, but it felt better just doing it at a different place. Also, concurrent training actually has some scientific background, and what I've discovered, as I said, couldn't really find anything on it. And my initial hypothesis for why this actually is happening is because varying the place at which you do a certain exercise makes it less boring, because you don't have the exact same place you do the exercise at for your entire training. Actually switching it up makes it a bit more exciting, I guess. Being in new places, doing exercises in different weathers and scenarios and all of that does make it a lot more or a lot less boring, and you're gonna be at them with a lot more enthusiasm. And I think, and that's at least what I thought, the enthusiasm I would have would actually lead to increased performance. Now recently I've actually been watching a lot of Andrew Huberman again, and I've been learning a lot more about dopamine, and from what I've picked up, I guess my initial hypothesis actually does kind of make sense. The way dopamine works, I guess many people say it's kind of the reward system of the brain for the body, which is kind of true, but also it mainly uses that reward system as an extra motivation for you to actually perform at the activity that is actually gonna reward you in the end. And the dopamine is just gonna kind of a reassurance for your body that what you do is actually good for you. And as it turns out, having more dopamine in your system while doing something is gonna boost your performance at that very thing. Simply because if you enjoy something and it feels good and it's good for you, your body is gonna automatically adapt to it and want to do it more because it's good for it. Does that make sense? I think so. Now so far we've got dopamine and how it actually boosts output and performance in the exercise. But now what does the variety and the place you do the exercise have to do with dopamine and the increased output and performance? And this is also something I've learned through Andrew Huberman. Novelty and variation in general is actually causing probably the biggest natural and not unhealthy dopamine release in your brain, which kind of makes sense. I don't know if it's just me, but whenever you're at a place you've never been at before, even if it's not as nice of a place, it kind of feels special and new and exciting in a sense. Even if it's just a very basic other part of the town I've not been at. like the vibe I'm getting there is very enticing, and I just feel great. I added. Maybe you can relate to this. So translating this into the exercise, if you do it at a different place or at a different bar, the novelty of it is gonna release dopamine in your system that is actually gonna boost your performance and output. So I would suggest you try it out. I've also got kind of a bit of a sad example of this, of like my longing for novelty back at my rather down bad phases, especially when I was playing the first Zelda Breath of the Wild. As I said, I played it for around 2,000 hours in total, and most of that time was just spent kind of trying to find new stuff in the game. Again, does that click? Novelty in the game, even though I knew pretty much the entirety of the game inside out, so nothing about it would really surprise me, to the point where I'd actually kind of brainwash myself and dilute myself into thinking I'm surprised, like I was acting like kind of a let's play YouTuber in my own head, and like pretending like I'm surprised by whatever was happening, even though I pretty much knew exactly what would happen if I do this and that, which is kind of a sad example, but also a like confirmation of your and my longing for novelty. And ever since actually finding this out, I am longing even more for more novelty, not in video games obviously, but in life in general. So I think this video is more of like a nudge to you to actually start exploring more and to start seeing new things, because it is gonna make you a lot more happy, not in the sense that it's gonna kind of overshoot your brain with dopamine, but more it's actually gonna lead you to be a more motivated and more happy person. And I think that's always a good thing. I think that's all I've got to say for today. It's not a very long video, hopefully, if I can cut it down to a reasonable length. But I think it is one of the most important videos I've ever made, even though it's so short, because what this actually has like done for me is not only improved performance in my training, which I'm very passionate about, but also just more happiness and well-being in my entire life, in my life overall. So I highly encourage you to seek novelty and to seek variety in your life. And with that, I'll see you in the next one, or even if not, I hope you enjoyed the video. See you there. Bye.